To provide the member with just one very simple reassurance. The criteria around resource management matters going before the EPA are exactly the same as the criteria that currently exists for ministers being able to call in and deal with consents of national significance.
I'll go back to Brendan Burns.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Well, thank you, Minister, but of course it's a different complexion of government in charge at the moment, so I would have still some fears in respect of these clauses and how they might be applied. And there is a different agenda. There is definitely a growth agenda there in the Cabinet at the moment, and I refer to the article that Colin James wrote in January of this year about the Minister having a wish to influence better environmental outcomes, but as Colin James reported, the Minister was in the grip of an economic growth cabal, and there's no doubt, as we stand in this House and look across the chamber, where the power is based. And it's certainly not in the environment portfolio, certainly not in the broadcasting portfolio, and we could go down a number of other portfolios where the power and weight is minimal compared to a clutch at the top, who certainly have a very fixed agenda, and that's why this part does provide a very, very wide-ranging opportunity for intervention, and it was used on occasions by the last government. Remember my friend and former colleague Marion Hobbs using it in respect of Project Aqua, an appropriate intervention. But the concerns that we have, and that's why I want the reassurance from the Minister, is in respect of the capacity for that 10-part bill clause to be used to evoke a very rapid set of interventions driven by that growth agenda. And coming back to the concern that I have about this kind of power, in the mid-1990s, I was editor of the newspaper in Marlborough at the time that the fast ferries began. There was two or three groups who sprung up in opposition to the wake that was being affected by two fast ferry operations. They were not. It wasn't a situation where a proposal of national significance was used, but still, the power of that company, those companies, was sufficient to bring charges against those two or three small groups and whack them with very considerable costs. So it was the imbalance that can be created when the legislation allows a big entity, i.e. the government, to take on a small entity, i.e. a small ratepayer-based or community-based group who wants to challenge the power of the Crown or a major corporate. The imbalance that can be created can be monstrously unfair. The irony of that situation was the then Minister of Conservation was one of those who had costs awarded against him, one Dennis Marshall, along with two Marlborough Sounds-based community groups. And of course that issue is coming back into rapid sight at the moment, as we see in the last 48 hours our rail company indicating, with the support of the Minister of Transport, a wish to rapidly reconsider the option for Lake Grasmere as a new port to replace Picton as the main port of the top of the South Island for rail ferry traffic. Now that is a proposal which deserves to be considered on its merits. It is an issue that will divide the Marlborough community, which I still have strong connections to. Already the people of Picton are expressing some very real fears about the impact of that project. And I'd like to know from the Minister whether that is the sort of project that he envisages would be taken in under Clause 82 with these 10 wide-ranging clauses with enormous power for call-in, and I think that the people of Marlborough would welcome such an assurance from him tonight, and perhaps the member for Kaikoura might be willing to take a call on behalf of his constituents in respect of that particular application of Part 6.
Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.